Three things investors ought to be thinking about right now. On the Barron's Roundtable, my colleagues Ben Levison, Teresa Rivas, and Andrew Barry. So Ben, the S&P and the Dow hitting new highs on Friday, actually, record highs, 6 straight weeks of gains. That's unusual. What's behind the investor enthusiasm?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. These aren't huge gains. Only the Dow, it was up about 1%, a little bit under 1%, and that was with some pretty bad earnings from United Health and American Express that pulled down the index on some days. The NASDAQ and the S&P had to deal with some real volatility in tech stocks, but I think it's really just some optimism about earnings, optimism about the economy that's keeping this market just going up every week.
Andrew, you're looking at American Express.
Well, yeah, American Express was down a little bit this week, but it's been a very strong stock. I've been surprised at how well the company's been doing in terms of attracting a younger customer base. I thought it was all like older people like me who were price insensitive and willing to pay $6.95 for a platinum card.
And there was really nothing wrong with its earnings. That's what was amusing about it. It raised its guidance, its beat for earnings, and it beat earnings estimates. The only problem was that its guidance for revenue came down at the low end of the scale, but there was nothing wrong there at all. This was just an example of a stock that had gone up a lot, and I think people just sold the news.
Maybe people are realizing that a card is actually easier than Venmo. You never know. Anyway, third quarter earnings, how are they shaping up?
So far, so good. I mean, they coming into the quarter are supposed to get about 3.5% growth. It looks like it might be double that. And next quarter is going to be even better. We're seeing estimates for about 13%. And I know that sounds a bit extreme, but the fourth quarter of last year was not very good. So we're really looking at easy comps rather than a real acceleration in growth. And if the market can deliver those kind of earnings, that'd be great, because at around 21.5 times earnings, it's not very cheap.
Yeah, it's steep, but maybe you can justify those multiples. Already, so not much economic data on the calendar. What are you looking at in the coming weeks?
Well, it's going to be all about more earnings. We're going to get a bunch of them in the next weeks, including lots of automakers, GM, Ford, even Tesla, and we'll see what happens from there. But I think it's going to be those earnings that are going to keep everyone focused.
So you talked about some volatility under the hood in the NASDAQ, Teresa, wild swings in semiconductor stocks in particular, and some people think that could be a bad omen.
Right. So ASML is probably the most important company you've never heard of. They make the machines that make the chips that make AI happen and have powered so much of the rally. On Tuesday, they came out with a not great sales guidance, and that just really spooked semiconductor stocks across the board. Taiwan Semi was more upbeat later in the week, but investors are still looking for an answer one way or another on that. And chip stocks are often seen as early cycle stocks. They're riskier, they're more volatile, so the concern is if they're in trouble, they could be signaling trouble for the broader market ahead.
Yeah, well, one thing you're seeing is you've seen some rotation out of technology into some other groups in the market in the last month or two. So you're seeing a broadening of it. So it actually, the market still could do okay, even with tech stocks floundering a little bit.
Still, people are going to be looking at the Mag 7 coming out in the coming weeks. What are you looking for there, Teresa?
Right. So as Ben said, it's still really early days in terms of the third quarter. We did have Netflix come out earlier this week. That was a great quarter. But none of the Mag 7 have reported yet. Toward the end of the month, that's when we'll hear from Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. So if they have good news, that could make people feel a lot better about the sector. Now, NVIDIA itself doesn't come out till November, but Barron's has been very bullish, saying buy any dips there.
And Tesla's looking to redeem itself after kind of a flop on Robotaxi Day, but if it has good numbers, that might help.
Exactly. So next week is Tesla. We also get Texas Instruments, another chip stock. Tesla actually uses NVIDIA chips, so we get a little bit of a preview there of what their quarter might look like. But as you say, Tesla looking for some good news. The Robotaxi Day was not what people were hoping for, and the government is also investigating their driving assist software. So investors will be looking for some upbeat commentary. We know that adoption of electric vehicles is slowing down. So they could make people happy if they talk about the demand landscape in an upbeat way, or even how they're handling that versus competitors.
Yeah, hybrid's where it's at. Andrew, you mentioned a broadening out of the investment landscape into financials is part of it. Financials are really on a roll. Sector's doing great. Why is that going?
Well, I mean, bank stocks in particular have been on a roll. The sector's up about 30% this year. Much of the gains have come since the middle of the year. Investors have been attracted to relatively low valuations, stocks trading for about 10-ish times earnings. You got a whole spate of bank earnings come out recently, and they generally beat expectations, which was good, even though the absolute results weren't great. But investors are looking out till 2025. That's where analyst Mike Mayo of Wells Fargo thinks you're going to see like some acceleration in earnings occurring. So, I mean, you saw strength in particular recently in Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley. and some of the others.
So one of the things that I think that doesn't get talked about enough is just how much regulation is helping. We had something called Basel III, which are going to be these very onerous rules that are going to be put on banks. They've actually been dialed back. And if you look at when this bank rally started, it really coincided with that.
Interesting. So Mike Mayo, when he talks, we should listen. He is optimistic that maybe this rally can continue?
Yeah, I mean, he likes Citi, which is a kind of a turnaround story, another stock that could have some legs, as well as Fargo, which is a self-help story. This asset cap, which has limited their growth, could be removed next year. And also the election could be a help. Stan Druckenmiller, the noted investor, said this past week that he thinks the bank stocks are starting to discount a Trump victory in November. That might mean less onerous regulation, which could help the industry.
Got it. I will say Brian Belsky and Schwab came out and said, ignore the election. It doesn't make any difference, but we'll certainly see what happens soon. All right, thanks, guys.